Hi guys, I'm Justin Davis, a Salesforce consultant. I help people with the various aspects of Salesforce.
Hi, I'm Sarah, a sales manager. Our company has decided to implement Salesforce for CRM and branding. I've been asked to be the head of the implementation process.
Well, that's good. Congratulations. Am I sensing a but there?
Yes, I'm confused about which edition to choose and also about the branding and customization options available in Salesforce.
You know, Sarah, that's a valid question. Companies looking for branding and CRM are often not sure which editions to go for. Buying Salesforce is the easy part. Now the company needs to start using it. Branding, tabs, and homepage customizations all go a long way to ensuring a high adoption rate. Users want to log in and navigate fast. This lesson will explain how to solve the problem of tab overkill and cleaning up the homepage for a more streamlined experience.
Great! I can't wait to get started.
In this lesson, what you'll learn is customizing the homepage by adding and removing components, creating custom tabs for faster data access, creating a custom app for applications creation, uploading a company logo to brand Salesforce, exploring the system overview page, and updating the fiscal year and business hours. Let's go ahead and get started. So Salesforce is a web-based CRM that allows users to log in from anywhere with an internet connection and browser. The common use cases for Salesforce include tracking business development activities of salespeople. So this could be logging cold calls, sending mass emails, sending out brochures, any type of business development activity that you'd want to track. Salesforce can manage that. Also, the reporting on customer interaction through case management. So if customers have any issues or complaints or problems, they can log in and create a case, and the customer service folks can work with that case as well. Also, reporting on the effectiveness of marketing initiatives. So all of those different marketing activities that are being put on, how effective are they? What's the ROI? What are the general and total sales for them? What are the sales specific for products and services and all of that? Also, to give you the ability to collaborate between employees, partners, and customers. So this last one's pretty interesting because there's a feature called Salesforce Communities. And with Salesforce Communities, you can actually grant login access to individuals outside of your organization. So this is an important point here because Salesforce is really ultimately a collaboration tool between employees, also managers, of course, partners, and customers. Next, we're going to walk through the individual Salesforce editions and talk about the pros and cons of each. So Salesforce has a wide range of products and services that they offer. There are essentially three primary editions that you're going to encounter on the exam. Professional Edition is the first level, and it's really meant to be a standalone account and contact management system. You can also track, deals through opportunities as well as products, but there are no options for, integration, and, there is no automation as well. So it's really meant to be a starter version of Salesforce. Of course, the benefit there is that it's $65 a month, so it's the least expensive of the three that most Salesforce customers end up moving forward with. The next edition here is Enterprise. Enterprise is by far the most popular edition of Salesforce. It allows for workflow rules to send out automated notifications. You can perform integrations. There's a sandbox. Security is also much more robust. So with Enterprise Edition, you can actually build out an application on your own, or you can actually connect with other applications as well. So most customers end up moving forward with Enterprise. Unlimited Edition is the next level up, and there's a level above that called Performance, which we're not going to go into too much detail on. But Unlimited Edition offers higher limits. There are multiple sandboxes allowed, additional data storage. Not that many Salesforce customers have this edition, however, some do. So with Unlimited Edition as an administrator, you'll have multiple sandboxes such as a full copy sandbox that brings over all the data into that sandbox, so it's not just a blank testing area, it actually has your live data as well. You can also make many more customizations, you can have more tabs, and also you have additional data storage. So for the purpose of this course, we're going to be focusing mainly on Enterprise Edition features and limits. That's what the exam primarily focuses on as well. But, it is important to note that there's a couple of different, main editions here of Salesforce. So next we're going to talk about homepage customization. So when you first log into Salesforce, you're going to hit the homepage. And so on this homepage, you're going to see really a starting point. So you're going to see tasks, dashboard area, any recent records. So for example, you're going to be able to see all the open and, tasks that need to be completed that haven't been completed yet. You can also view upcoming events. You can also view dashboard snapshots. So as you can see here, so when a user first logs in, they are able to, see all of these different aspects. And this is important because it's the starting point. So from this page, really it's meant to be, a snapshot of all their activities. And then from here, they can start clicking on the various tabs across the top to start moving around the system. So now I'm going to go ahead and walk you through some of the homepage features. So I'm logged into Salesforce, and as you can see here, I can scroll up and down and see a list of calendar events that I have. I also have recent items over here on the left-hand side. So if I want to navigate to one of those, I can simply click on the link, and it'll take me to that individual record. So if I need to get back, I can always go back and click on that homepage. So here, once I'm here, I can also show the chatter feed. So for example, I can click on this show feed button, and it'll actually show me a list of all of the different chatter conversations that I have. And we'll get to chatter a little bit later on, but chatter is essentially an internal messaging tool that allows you to communicate with other Salesforce users. And if I don't need to see this chatter feed for now, I can just click the hide feed button to collapse that back up. Down here, I can also see all the calendar events. So what I'm doing is I'm actually synchronizing from my Google Apps account. So all of my Google events are being synchronized back to the calendar here in this particular case. I can also click on the new event button, and this will actually allow me to manually create an event. So I can choose the start date and the end date and time as well, and then save, and then that's going to show up on that calendar list. If I want to see the calendar for multiple users, I can come over here and click on this multi-user view icon, and then I can see different individuals as well as their calendar and availability. So if I click on one of these purple boxes here, it's actually going to show me the specific event details for that individual user. And then of course, if I want to jump back, I can click on the Home tab and it'll take me back to that page. Also on the home page here, we have the recycle bin. So if you ever accidentally delete something, you can click on recycle bin, and then that will allow you to come in here and actually undelete records. Now those are stored for up to 15 days, and that is up to your data storage limit, so whichever one comes first. But for most Salesforce customers, it is going to stay there for 15 days. So you can always go back in there and undelete it and pull it out. So moving on, we're going to talk about user management. So the key points for this is that users must be assigned an active license. All usernames must be unique across all of the Salesforce network. So for example, if you had a specific username at a previous company and you were wanting to use that at a new company you might be at, you're going to have to use a different username. So one way around that is before you deactivate it in the other system, you can always change the username to something that is not meaningful, so add a couple of numbers to the end of the name before the domain, and that way you can use your own username going forward. All users must be assigned a profile, and you can also reassign user licenses. So the licenses work in a pooled format. So you buy 10 licenses, and so 10 people at any given time can be accessing Salesforce. If someone leaves, however, you can turn off their access, and then that license is freed up to then be assigned to their replacement, for example. So now I'm actually going to walk through the creation of a user in Salesforce. So I'm logged into Salesforce here, and I'm going to start by clicking on the setup link in the top right corner. So over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to choose Manage Users, click on Users, and then I can choose New User here. So if I click on this New User button, I then can start filling out the fields relevant to that particular user. So in this case, I'm going to have, John Adams, and I'm going to choose just any random email address in this case, and see if you see what happens when I fill out that email, it populates the username field there as well. You can always come back in and change that. So the email and the username actually don't have to be the same, but they will be most of the time. And then over here on the right-hand side, I can choose between different licenses. So for example, in this case, I have maybe a Chatter external license, and then I have a Chatter external user profile I can choose. I also have options over here on the right-hand side. For example, I can choose whether this user is in accessibility mode and colorblind palette on charts. I can also turn off this force.com quick access menu. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because what that does is it shows a little blue box on the right hand side, and I don't need this particular user to see it. Then I can scroll down here and I can choose if I want them to receive a new password and notify them immediately or not. A lot of people don't know you can actually uncheck this and then click save. And what that'll allow you to do is create a new user record, but it will not send an email notifying that user that a new Salesforce user account has been set up for them. So if you want to set their account up without notifying them, that's the way to go about it. So to continue on, I can also come in here and make changes. So for example, if John has a problem with the company, for example, and ends up getting terminated, I can actually freeze John's user account. So I can click on freeze, and that will freeze John's access to the system. I can also come back and unfreeze if there's a situation that's been resolved as well. If I want to deactivate John, I can click on edit here and uncheck this active checkbox. Now I'm going to be prompted here to confirm this, which I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to click save. And then Salesforce is now going to deactivate John's user access. Now, if John tries to log in again, he's going to get a notification that says his system administrator has disabled his access. Salesforce has a couple of other user features worth mentioning. So for example, we can also reset a password. So if I want to reset a password for this user, I can go ahead and do so. That will send a user password reset. However, in this case, I had deactivated this user, so it didn't send it, but you can reset their password there. If I click on users, I can also create views. For example, I've got some users in the system. I can also create new view here and see, all admin users, for example. So I can come over here and actually create a list view of the different users in the system. And this is particularly useful for companies that have quite a few users. So that way you can actually create lists and you can flip through them a little bit easier. So at this point, I'm going to create a list called admin, and it's where the profile contains the word administrator, and I'm going to click save. So here you can see that none of the users actually showed up. What that means is none of the users actually have that particular profile. So let me change that to say Chief Executive. So I'm going to click save, and Salesforce is actually saving my change at the moment. And now you can see that a user shows up that actually fits the criteria for that particular list. Now I can also come over here and make a couple of other mass changes. So if I click on the active users list here, I can also come over here and check a couple of different checkboxes and reset passwords for those individuals. I can also click on this add multiple users button. So if I click add multiple users, it's going to give me the ability to choose a license, and then I can actually add those users individually. If I don't have enough licenses, then I need to purchase more licenses from Salesforce, or I need to deactivate one of these users so that way there is a free license for me to use. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is viewing available tabs in Salesforce. So the main points of this topic here is that tabs can be added or removed by individual users. Web tabs can be added to access commonly requested websites. Tabs can also be created to display Visualforce pages. There's a couple of other uses for tabs, but these are really the three primary uses: to view object data, to view websites, as well as Visualforce pages. So I'm logged into Salesforce here, and I've got a couple of different tabs across the top. Now I want to change what tabs are displayed. So I can click on this plus sign and choose Customize My Tabs, and then it gives me the ability to actually select different tabs that I want to have displayed. So now I want to click Save, and then you'll see that those new tabs are now displayed across the top. So I can also click on the tab. It'll take me to individual list views as well. Same goes with dashboards. So if I wanted to create a web tab, I can do that and it'll show up as a tab here across the top. So at this point, I'm going to create a new tab for a custom object. So I'm going to click on Setup in the top right corner. Over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Create and then Tabs. And then I'm going to click on this new button. So when I click on this new button, I'm going to be presented with a list of custom objects that don't have a tab. So I'm going to choose internal hour. In this case, it's a custom object. And I'm going to choose a tab style. Now, when this window pops up, I can choose from a variety of different icons. In this case, I'm going to choose the flag. Once I click Next, it's then going to ask me for the tab visibility. So I have the ability to control who has access to this tab by default. So for example, if I leave this as default on, then everybody's going to be able to see the tab when they log in. If I leave it as default off, it's going to hide the tab, but it will give them the ability to add it to their tab row if they'd like. Now, if I choose tab hidden, it's actually going to prevent them from seeing the tab as well as adding the tab to their own list of tabs. In this case, I'm going to leave it as default on. And if I wanted to sort of mix and match a visibility, I can also choose apply different tab visibility for each profile, and I can choose between default on, default off on a per profile basis. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as the default, and I'm going to click Next. So here I also have the ability to add a tab to an individual app, which we'll actually get to here in a few minutes. In this case, I'm going to click Save because I do want the tab to show. And so now you can see I can click on this internal hours tab and it's going to show me records for this particular tab. So the next thing we're going to talk about is creating an app in Salesforce. So an app allows you to access common features, organize tabs in a logical manner, as well as create a customizable application. So what that means is you can actually create internal apps for your organization. So you might have an app for the sales team, you might have an app for the customer service team or the marketing team. So when they log in, they can actually change from the drop-down menu in the top right corner what different applications are available. So for example, here we have a list of different apps. So we have an app for all tabs, one for the Apereo Cloud Sync application. We have an executive app, an external app as well. So inside of Salesforce, you can, essentially bundle up the tabs and objects on a per app basis. So for example, I'm logged into Salesforce here. So in the top right corner, I can choose between sales or executive, for example, or perhaps the Apereo Cloud Sync app. So in the top right corner, you can build these different apps and choose which tabs are selected. So for example, here I can choose sales and it'll take me back to the sales app for which I have tabs built out for. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and create an app. So I'm first going to click on the setup link in the top right corner. And on this page, I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side and click on Create and Apps. So now I'm going to click New. And I'm going to create an app. So let's call this app Customer Service in this particular case. So here I have the ability to upload, and associate a logo. We'll get to that in the next lesson. But at this point, you can click Insert an Image and actually choose a logo to associate here. I'm just going to leave it as the default, and I'm going to click Next. Now, this is the most important part of the app. You have the ability to choose from different tabs on the left-hand side. So, for example, we're building an app for the customer service team. So what are the different tabs that they would need to see? So I think accounts would be important for customers, contacts as well for those that are actually calling in, and then cases for the actual service tickets to resolve those customer issues. I'm going to also add the dashboards tab, so that way they can actually check on their performance and see what cases are being resolved and how long it's taking them to resolve them. So now I'm going to click Next, and on this page I can actually choose who has access and who doesn't. So I can actually make all these individual profiles have access to the app by checking this visible checkbox here. I can also take the further step of making it the default app. Now what this would do is whenever a customer service person logs in, this would be the default app that they see here in the top right-hand corner. In this case, I'm going to uncheck it and be more selective. I'm just going to say, for example, the CEO is going to be able to see this. Then I'm going to click Save. So when I click Save, I can actually click in this top right corner, and you can see I now have my customer service app built out. And it's got those individual tabs that we added earlier. So that's essentially how you create an app in Salesforce. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is uploading a company logo. Now inside Salesforce, when you create apps and email templates and letterhead and all of that, you're going to want to have the company logo in there. So what you need to do is make sure that your logo is formatted per Salesforce specifications, 300 by 55 pixels, for example. You also need to upload that logo to the Documents tab, and then you can assign that logo to an actual app in Salesforce. So I'm now going to demonstrate how to actually upload the logo to Salesforce. So I'm logged in here. I'm going to click on this Documents tab. On the Documents tab, I'm going to click New, and I'm going to actually name this, for example, let's call it Logo. Now, I need to make this externally available, so I'm going to check on that externally available image checkbox. Now, that's very important because once you check that checkbox, it makes the image available for outside applications that will reference the URL. So the best thing to do is check that checkbox if you want to make this logo or any document for that matter accessible via a link from outside of Salesforce. If not, if you want to keep that document more restricted or private, don't check that checkbox. Here I can also save the file to any of these folders. So for example, I'm going to click on the shared documents, click on browse, and then for example, I'm going to grab that company logo file and I'm going to click save. So now you can see I've uploaded the logo here. So I can actually go back and reference this logo with any of the applications that I have. So for example, I can click on create and apps, and I can go back to, for example, that customer service app. And on this customer service app, I can actually change which image is displayed. So here I'm going to click on Insert Image, and it's going to pop up a box, and I can actually choose logo here. So I'm going to choose logo. It's going to change that for me and click Save. And then when I jump over to that particular app in the top right corner, for example, customer service, it's actually going to show that logo that I uploaded. So it's a pretty simple trick. You just need to make sure to upload that logo to the Documents tab, which then you can reference elsewhere. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the company information page. So the company information page has a few key points here. So the most important, in my opinion, is being able to see your data and file storage as well as your active licenses. So not many customers go over the data limit, but if you do, there's only one place to go and find that, and that's in this company information page. So here on the company information page, we can see, for example, the used data space is at 7%, used file space is barely at 1% or 0% actually. So you can see that as well as the number of active licenses down here at the bottom. So it's on this company information page that you can update any organizational details such as address. You can also view permission sets. And what I'm going to do is click on this Setup tab, and then I'm going to click on Company Profile and then Company Information on the left-hand side. So what's going to happen is this page will load and show me exactly what we were looking at before. So I can actually come over here and edit this as well. So for example, if I want to update the address or I want to change, the default language, for example, I can do so. I can also do things like turn on or turn off the different Salesforce email newsletters that go out. In this case, I'm just going to click Save, and I'm going to keep scrolling down. So here we can see that the used data space is at 80 megabytes. I can click View, and it's actually going to show me all of the different records that I have. So I've got a bunch of project history records. I've got roughly 8,000 contacts. So inside of Salesforce, you can actually see exactly how many records you have on a per object basis. So I'm going to click back to go back. So scrolling down, I can also see the the API and what limits are available for that API. I can also see any restricted logins. I can see my organization ID as well, and other relevant information. So if I continue scrolling down, I can see how many active user licenses I have. So in this case, in this particular org, I have 14 active user licenses, and I've got other feature licenses as well, which we'll go over in subsequent lessons. So in general, the company overview page just gives you a snapshot of your organization, your licensing, and your total data storage. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the system overview page. So on the system overview page, you can view the number of custom objects, the number of workflow rules and custom tabs, as well as Apex classes and API requests. You can also see any custom apps that you've built out as well. So here I'm logged in, and I'm going to click on Setup. And when I click on Setup over here on the left-hand side, I can scroll down under Monitor and click on System Overview. So on the System Overview page, I can see a few relevant pieces of information. So starting in the top left corner, I can see the number of custom objects that I have at 20, but I can see that my maximum limit here is 200, and I'm at 10% of that. I also have one custom setting, and I'm using approximately 81 megabytes of storage, or about 7%. I also have the ability to see the different rules and Apex triggers and classes that I've created, and my code limit. So I have the ability to have up to 3 million characters in Salesforce for Code. I've got about 49,000 right now, so it's just barely scratching the surface, just under 2%. Over in the top right-hand side, I can also see my number of API requests, 232, as well as other user interface items like the number of custom apps, the active force.com sites as well. So if I continue scrolling down, I can also see the most used licenses. So if I click on the Show All link, it'll take me right back to the company overview page. So it's essentially showing you the same information, but you can see I'm at 100% of my licenses here, and I also have 3 Salesforce licenses. So what this is there's force.com licenses that allow users to just see custom objects, and then Salesforce licenses which allow users to see everything. For the purpose of the exam, we're just talking about Salesforce licenses at this point. So the next thing we're going to talk about is updating the fiscal year in Salesforce. So in Salesforce, you can update the fiscal year, which will help keep your reports accurate. So you can assign a start and end month to your company and update business hours for routing logic as well. So updating the fiscal year will allow you to run reports using the FY designator, fiscal year, on reports. So that way you can say, if your fiscal year starts on July 1st or October 1st or, January 1st, whatever it may be, you can set that inside of Salesforce. And that way when users run their reports, they're actually looking at data for the fiscal year rather than the calendar year, for example. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump into Salesforce and actually demonstrate them. So to start, I'm going to click on Setup in the top right-hand corner. And over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Company Profile, and you can see I have Fiscal Year and Business Hours here. So if I click on Fiscal Year, I can edit it, and I can choose any month that I choose. I can also have a custom fiscal year, which I won't actually activate in this case. Custom fiscal years allow you to have, for example, 5-week months and 4-week months, etc. In this case, we're just going to talk about the standard fiscal year. I can also choose based on what the starting month is or the ending month, for example, and then I can make my change and click Save. The other area I wanted to go over here is the business hours. So with business hours, this is important for tracking different cases that might come in and leads that come in for any kind of service level agreements you may have. So for example, I can click on Edit here. And over on the right-hand side, I can actually check and uncheck these checkboxes to actually customize those hours. So for example, perhaps for Mondays, I want to say that the start time is at 8 a.m. and then the end time, for example, might be at 5 p.m. So it's just really a matter of editing the different options and then clicking Save. So once that's done, then those changes have been committed to the system. So this is really important because as we go over other topics such as case routing and the Service Cloud in Salesforce, all of those features are going to be looking at the business hours to determine if cases were answered on time and who they should be routed to, etc. So this is also an area that's covered on the exam. So Salesforce likes to cover obscure areas. So it's important to know where to find this and get to. So to start, I'm going to create an email template. So I'm going to click on Setup in the top right-hand corner, click on Communication Templates, and click on Email Templates here. So I'm going to click this New Template button. And I've got a variety of email templates to choose from. So I'm just going to leave this as text, but you can also choose HTML or Visualforce and with or without letterhead. For now, I'm just going to choose text and click Next. So anytime you create a new email template, you always need to check this Available for Use checkbox if you want to make this template available. If it's not ready for others to select, then leave that checkbox unchecked. In this case, we're going to type out, new lead, for example. So what I can do is I can actually create this email template like so. I can put, the body of the email there as well and click Save. So now my email template is saved. So I can come back over here and edit it, and I can also add those merge fields. So for example, if I want to add in fields from leads, I can click on leads and select a field, let's say company, and then I can just really copy and paste that merge field right in there. And then what's going to happen is when United Containers uses this email template, it's going to pull in that company information from the lead right into the email template. Another area that they went ahead and set up would be the workflow rules. So I'm going to click on Create in Workflow and Approvals. And so you can see I've got some workflow rules here. I can click on New Rule and choose which object I want the rule to touch. And so we're actually going to talk about workflow rules a little bit later on in this course. But just so you understand, workflow rules can trigger email alerts, tasks, field updates, or even outbound messages. So, this is the workflow areas, and this is the workflow rule area, and this is what you can do with those. So the last area that I wanted to talk about here is the sandbox. So if you log into the setup area over on the left-hand side, you can click on Sandboxes. So here in Salesforce, I also have the ability to create a sandbox, which United Containers did in that particular case. So I can actually see here the different sandboxes that I have. I have just a developer sandbox set up in this particular instance. I can always refresh this or log in or even delete it. But just as part of that case study, you can have sandboxes in Salesforce for testing purposes, and we will talk about that a little bit later on in the course as well. Some of the key takeaways here is that Salesforce is a web-based customer relationship management software that allows users to log in from anywhere with an internet connection and browser. Salesforce offers a wide range of products suited for each organization, and the homepage consists of the sidebar and main area, and users need to be assigned an active license to get access to the system.
Thanks a lot, Justin. This certainly helped. Now I'll be able to guide my team better when implementing Salesforce.
You are welcome, Sarah. Along with branding, companies struggle to manage inbound leads and follow-up reporting. We will cover it in the next lesson.